And go ahead.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Cindy Gay. I currently live in the DFW area of Texas, Irving to be more specific. And one of the things that I took away from the conference was the power of habits and creating new habits and finding out what your habits are that are probably destructive, the ones that you don't like, the ones that you're trying to change, and try to be really specific about what it is that about that habit that you think might be hurting you. So I've been actually looking at some YouTube videos, and there's a person that, if you guys want to reference this, you can. His name is Charles Duhigg, Duhigg. If a person can plagiarize verbally from a YouTube video, that's what I'm doing here, because he has an awesome video. It's about an hour long, but you'll love it. If you like some of the things that I say here tonight, watch it. It's an amazing video, and it's called The Power of Habits. He actually wrote the book, and it's called Why We Do What We Do in Business and Life. And if you see me looking up here, it's because I've got my notes on my computer and I'm talking to you through my phone. So I have them kind of set up odd ways here. But a little bit about me. I'm 44 years old, and I've always been not just obese, but morbidly obese. And I feel like I've not ever lived my life, especially here recently, because I've become very sedentary, which has now hurt my knees, hurt my ankles, my back. Everything always hurts all the time, and I can't do much. So when Alex and Amy and Melissa and I went to the Platinum Edge, Shalene Johnson was there, and she spoke on the power of habits, and I was intrigued because I thought, what am I not able to change? Why am I not able to change? Why have I never succeeded at losing weight? Probably 7 or 8 years ago, I lost about 85 pounds and got down to like 345. Right now, I'm close to that 500 mark, and you wouldn't, I mean, a lot of people say I look like it, but then again, I'm also 6 foot tall. So why am I still in a rut and I'm failing every meal plan that I've committed to? Why am I not succeeding at getting healthy? Why am I not succeeding at being a coach or running my business? Well, first of all, we have to define what a habit is. A habit is a decision that you've made at some point, and then you stopped making that decision, but you continued to act on it. So a prime example, backing your car out of the driveway. You're thinking about being in reverse. You're thinking about reversed images, your peripherals, the tree that's in the backyard, the dumpster, the mailbox. You're thinking about those things, and it takes you a little bit to get out of the driveway initially. But after you've done it for a little while, you don't seem to think about those things. Then you start thinking about, did I turn the crock pot on? Did I turn off my flat iron? Did I switch the laundry? And you're thinking about those things because the whole process to you has become routine. For me, example, I had just purchased a new vehicle. So even though I'm using the same driveway, I have different blind spots in my new vehicle. So I had to get comfortable again with backing out of the driveway. So it takes a little bit of time to change some things and then get comfortable with those things again. So I wanted to share another example of what Charles Duhigg spoke about, and that is scientific research on rats' brain activities. They went in and they installed these little electrodes in their mind, and then, or in their brain, not their mind, in their brain, and then they put them through mazes. And what they noticed was that when they first start the maze, when they went through a click, they had lots of activity running through on the scan that they had for them. And then they're sniffing around because they're not sure where to go, and they're scratching the walls. How do they get out? Where do they move? So there's lots and lots of electrode activity going on. Well, and then there's a piece of chocolate at the end. And that piece of chocolate at the end, lots of activity going on those electrodes, because yum, 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 chocolate is good, not to just people, but to rats too. So after a few times of going through this maze, eventually, when the cue came on, when that click came on, the rats had lots of activity on their electrodes, and then they knew to just kind of walk straight towards the chocolate. So when they just kind of walked towards the chocolate, it was routine and they didn't have a lot of brain activity in the scan from the scientific researchers. And then when they got to the chocolate, oh, yum, 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 they got all excited because there's the chocolate. And now they have lots of activity. So the same thing happens with people. When we have some kind of trigger, some kind of cue, that little click that's in the maze, we have lots of brain activity. But once we're used to something, then that becomes routine, i.e. for me, mindless eating. So they call this a mindless routine. You're triggered, say you're stressed out, and then you have a routine, you want to put something in your mouth, and then you reward yourself later for it by, oh, now I feel all better because my stomach is full, or, you know, anything you can think of. So and those that went to the conference, they know this. I don't know if you can see it. You got your cue, your routine, your reward, and they call it a habit loop. If you can find out what your cue is, what is your trigger, you're more likely able to change your habit. Okay. Once you create a new habit, your brain is no longer working like it did when you were initially thinking of your new habit. So your brain becomes lazy and it's asleep. So you're not making those decisions like you used to, and so that's how your habit becomes easier. In fact, he had said that about 40% of our daily activity is based on habits because we're used to doing those things. How do you identify your habits' cues? How do you identify your triggers? Well, let's think about smokers. If you've ever been a smoker or been around smokers, you'll agree that people argue that smoking is a physical addiction. Well, it's a physical addiction for only about 100 hours after your last cigarette. After that, it's not a physical addiction, but a habit. For an ex-smoker, their trigger is reading the morning paper. They get up, get their coffee or milk, juice, sit down and read the paper and light up. So their cue is the morning paper. That's their trigger. Their routine is to light their cigarette, and their reward is that the nicotine makes them feel good. So if they can change that cue, if they can change that trigger, instead of reading that morning paper when they first get up, how about if they read it after they get to the office where they can't have a cigarette because most places are tobacco free? Okay, so that'd be one way for a smoker to change their habit. Now let's think about exercise. How to create an exercise habit. Choose exercise cues. Put on your running shoes before eating breakfast. Always exercise at the same time of day. And then choose your reward. And he actually said, eat a small piece of chocolate after exercising, which seems really contradictory, but initially, your brain does not believe you that you actually enjoy exercise. So you have to trick it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have a piece of chocolate if I just do this 30 minutes of cardio. And then after a couple of weeks, you're not even going to crave that piece of chocolate because you're going to start feeling the effects of exercise all by itself. So research has shown that people eventually will drop that piece of chocolate and they no longer want it, but they have already created their new habit of exercise. Now, I will tell you another thing that he said. 21 days to create a new habit, it's a myth. He said that each person is different. Each habit is different. If you have someone that, like I know someone on this phone that does not like to exercise, they may never want to exercise. They may never create a habit to exercise, but some people who love it, it may take them only 4 days to create that new habit. So treat each habit differently And don't just say, oh, you'll create a new habit within 21 days. That may not necessarily be true for everybody. Once you can help define someone's habit, you can focus on their triggers. I was thinking about how can you apply learning a new habit as a coach or as a business owner. I think the number one rule that we've learned being involved with all these people is being a good listener. If you're a good listener and you're looking for those key words that will help you understand your downline, understand your team, understand potential downline, potential customers, friends, family, I believe that you can find their triggers if you really listen. I have friends who have asked me, how can I help? Or what can I do? I never really knew how to answer them except just be my friend. I mean, my heart was so big and so full whenever I learned, just somebody asking me that, what can I do? What can I do to help? How can I help? I thought, oh my gosh, they love me so much, but I didn't know how someone could help. But riding in the car with my friends at Platinum Edge, I was thinking about habits. How can someone help me with my habits? It's just finding out what your triggers are. Once you know what your trigger is, once you can define what your habit is by learning those triggers, you can truly change that habit. I think that's pretty much what I have to say on that. How can you apply this as a business owner? I haven't really worked my business that much, but I think we could probably talk about that a little bit. I think maybe, sharing some of the challenge groups that you have with other people and your posts that you have on Facebook, if some of them aren't working for you, change your habit. Don't automatically think, oh, this just isn't going to work, or the people aren't flowing to me properly. Change your habit of how you're working your business and see if there's something else that could work for you. Be creative and inventive, and maybe you can be the first person to do something that no one's ever thought of that would be a new habit to share. So I appreciate everybody listening. If you guys want to talk about some stuff, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Cindy. That was good. I like that you said when people are backing out of the driveway, like you quit thinking about that, right? That's how I wrecked my mom's car. Because I was like, oh, let me just back out. I'm not thinking about this. I forgot my mom's inside the house, but I'll just drive out into her van without looking.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that is a really, really true statement. In my defense, it was very dark outside, but not.
Gotcha.
Anyway, I think that for me with habits and, creating habits, I have habits for my business that are good and bad. And so, like, for me, a bad habit, well, I don't know if this is good or bad. I don't think it's a particularly good habit. But the first thing I do every morning when I wake up is I get my phone and I check my Facebook in order to, respond to messages from the team or post on a team page or things like that. So it's a habit that helps me manage my business. Maybe I should change that trigger though, so it's not like the first thing I'm doing while I'm still in bed. But one of the things I've heard Shalene talk about before is that she teaches exercise classes at 6 o'clock in the morning, and when she gets home, before she goes inside, she sits down. She stays in her car where it's quiet and nobody's bothering her, and she writes out a list of everything that she needs to do for that day, or just like kind of dumps her brain. That way she kind of goes into her day with a clear plan. So I think that would be a good business habit to create, is like making a to-do list, or even like the night before. This is not a habit that I have, but I wish I did, to do something like that before I go to bed at night. because a lot of times I lay down and all I can think about is all the things that I have to do tomorrow. And if I do sit down and just get them on paper, I quit stressing out about them, and I'm not like mentally telling myself, make sure you don't forget this, make sure you do that. And it's not just business. That's just in my life in general. But I think that would be a good business habit also.
I think so too. Clearing your mind, because you know it's written down on paper. You're not going to forget because it's going to be there for you to see it the next morning.
Right. Well, we've talked about before, I have issues with remembering things anyhow. And so if I know that I have a list somewhere, then I'm a lot more likely to sleep restfully. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So anybody else? All right. Well, you lean forward, Melissa. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say I'm very much like you. The first thing I do in the morning is grab my phone and check my Facebook and all that other stuff. And I end up wasting more time doing that than anything else, because I get stuck on, well, who posted what? And, my niece posted pictures of my nephew. And so, yeah, that's a habit I've been trying to break, but it's not really easy, because I kind of tell myself that I have to do it because I have to check to see if anybody's, messaged me to see if I need anything or see if they need anything. But I'm trying to change that and not do that quite first thing when I get up in the morning. But that's hard.
There's a really great video that Lindsay Krause made about doing a power hour. And she says that what she recommends, the whole concept of power hour, is that you spend the first 20 minutes in your business reaching out to new people. So starting new conversations, however many people that's going to be. And the next 20 minutes you spend responding to messages. And then the last 20 minutes you spend doing business related tasks that would grow your business. But one of the most important things we can do in our business is be reaching out to people and inviting people every day. So she says the first thing you should do is invite, and then you should respond, and then work on other things. And if that takes longer than 20 minutes, that's okay. But the whole idea is that this is like power hour. If you can only spend 1 hour in your business, follow this. And it's a good concept, because she's like, don't be ruled by your inbox saying you have this many new messages. And a lot of us, we go in and we see the red and we're like, oh, notifications, oh, messages, let's do that first, instead of really putting our business first and first doing messages, and then not instigating, sending out new messages, inviting new people. And instead of us running our businesses, we are letting Facebook run it for us by the little red notification. So that's a habit too that I think most of us have. We log into Facebook and the first thing we do is check our notifications, when our business may be better served by first posting in our challenge groups, inviting new people, things like that are proactive rather than just doing it reactive. So it's just a thought also.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That was very good, Cindy. Thank you. I can tell that you put a lot of thought into it and really took time preparing that for us. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have anything they want to say? And if not, then I will let you guys go for tonight. Thank you again, Jen, for being on the call tonight. We appreciate having you.
Thanks for having me. It was good. I like it.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.